Check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up. Put the place up, yeah, we know what we made of. Can't get enough of you, boo, I'm a chaser. Face up, now I feel a little major. Blink of an eye, ego, I'm a taker.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Photography and Life. In today's episode, we're going to be visiting FD Studios in downtown LA, and I'm going to share with you my process for shooting portraits on the fly and my process for shooting with strangers. So, last year in early 2017, I made a goal for myself, a resolution, if you will. And I had decided that shyness was keeping me from achieving a lot of the goals or the dreams that I had for myself. And so one of the things that I set out to do was I told myself that I would get good at asking strangers to let me make their portraits. And one of the things that really helped me out was going to photographer meetups and going to photography mixers. So the thing about going to a photography meetup or going to a photography mixer is that the people that are going there are going either with the intention of having their picture taken, or they're going with an awareness or an acceptance that at some point someone will take a picture of them and they're okay with that. So that alone, it makes it feel safer, or it becomes kind of like the training wheels to this exercise, which is talking to strangers or photographing strangers. So that is why I would recommend that if you also want to get better at taking pictures of strangers, that you find a photography meetup or a photography mixer.
Can I grab a picture of you later, or? Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, whenever you're done.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, okay.
Paulina.
Hey, Paulina, nice to meet you.
Okay, so for me, whenever I'm going to shoot a portrait where I only have a few minutes to make that portrait, and where the person that I'm photographing is someone that I've never met before, there is a certain process that I tend to go with. Number one is I first determine where the light is going to be the most flattering. And for me, the light determines the location of where I'm going to shoot and the direction that I'm going to shoot in, and that's where I will place my subject. And so as soon as I got to FD Studios, I got up to the rooftop. Without even thinking about it, my eyes just started scanning, and I found a few spots that I thought would be good.
Can I take a picture of you? Yeah. Let's do with this backdrop now, because the lights shifted. Yeah. It's okay if I take some video, right? Yeah. What's your name?
Emily.
Emily. Marco, pleasure to meet you. This is my friend Paulina. Okay.
Million thoughts are spinning around in my head. My pulse holds it down, 'cause I'm almost there. Now I see you through the window and I'm walking on it, but I won't let you know. And I know how it goes. It's supposed to feel incredible. It's too bad
second thing that I do is I just try not to think, and I allow myself to feel what feels right. And so the moment that I see someone who I feel is interesting, I get an excitement. I feel excited, and I've learned to recognize that excitement. It's like, oh wow, I want to shoot them, or I would love to make a portrait of that person. But now what I do is I don't think about it. The moment that I feel that excitement, I verbalize it. And you're going to hear consistently throughout this episode, you're going to hear my excitement when I ask these people, hey, can I take your picture? Or, oh, I would love to make a portrait of you, or I would love to take your picture. And I think that people respond well if you have excitement, so long as it's not too much and so long as you're approachable. Anytime that I'm going to shoot two people, usually what happens is I first take pictures of them together, and then I will ask one of them if they'll let me take some pictures. I just said, can I take some pictures of just you, just for a little bit? And he said, yeah. And so I asked her if she would let me make a few portraits of her, just her, and she said yes. And number 3 is once they say yes, then we go to the location. Usually I will ask them to go with me. It's very rare that I ask someone for their portrait and then I take their picture right where they're at. Usually I already have a location in mind where I think that the light is flattering. That's step 1. And so usually step 3 is to say, awesome, do you mind, can we go over here? Because I think the light would look really good.
Can I get your picture when they're done with you? Yeah? Okay. Is it okay if I take some video too? Is that alright? Yeah? Okay. Just gonna... The light totally shifted. Alright, let me actually move you over this way. Yeah. Alright, so, the stool. Let's use the stool. Yeah.
Step number 4 is usually what I do is I have to establish rapport, and I have to work on building, kind of working with the pose. And so everybody's different. So one of the things that works for me is I will usually take my camera and I will say, look, I'm gonna do some warm-up shots, and I'm gonna pick up the camera. I'm gonna take some shots. I just need to test out the light, and I need to change the colors in my camera. So go ahead and do whatever you want. You don't have to pose, you can pose. I'm just gonna do that really quick. Don't worry about it. These pictures don't count, all right? These are just test shots. And so what I find is that usually 9 out of 10 people, when I do that, they'll start to pose. And usually they'll do a pose, they'll do their go-to pose, right? So they'll do whatever they do in selfies, or they'll do whatever poses have worked with other photographers, and they'll start to do those poses. And this is really important, okay, for me, for my process. What ends up happening is when they do that is I look for something that I like. I look for something beautiful in what they do naturally, right? So I'll give you an example. If I say to a model, you know what, I'm gonna just take some test pictures or some test shots, and I'm just going to check the colors and the settings, go ahead and just pose. I mean, these don't really count. These are just like, test shots. So I take my camera and I go like that, and she tilts her head this way and then just looks like this, and her shoulders are straight onto the camera, but she tilts this way. I might say to her, you know what? I love the way you're tilting your head. That's so beautiful. I love the way the light's coming down here. And I'm being sincere. Remember, what I'm saying is I look for something that I genuinely like about what they're doing. And then I make a suggestion to make it fit more my style of photography. Okay? Notice I'm not saying to make it better, because that's subjective, but to make it fit more my style of photography. So I would say this is what I would say in that situation. I would say, I love the way that you're tilting this way, but you know what? Could you take your right shoulder and maybe just bring it back a tiny bit? Okay, but the point that I'm making is usually I allow for the model or the subject to come up with their own pose, right? And then I add to it, or I suggest. So I don't really pose them. I actually just make a suggestion to make whatever they're already doing well, and add to that so that it fits the feeling or the emotion or the look that I'm trying to convey in my photography.
Oh, can I take pictures of you?
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, what's your name again?
Elena.
Marco.
Marco.
Yeah, you got a strong grip. This is Paulina.
Paulina, very
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so.
Remember, everything that I'm talking about literally happens in about 5 to 10 minutes. And I just take the pictures, and then after that, it just becomes a game. We just play with it. And then I thank them. If I haven't already introduced myself, I introduce myself, and I move on to the next person. Okay, so that is the process that I use consistently to take pictures. And it's not that I made the decision one day to do it. It's just as I continue to take portraits of people who I was just meeting on the street, or that I was meeting at weddings or birthday parties or meetups. This just kind of happened to be, I noticed that a pattern started to emerge, and so that is the pattern that I'm sharing with you today.
Okay, so we're actually doing a little maneuver here, climbing up to the top to get Paulina up here.
And it dawned on me that I had been taking pictures of strangers, but I hadn't made one picture or one photograph of my friend Paulina. And as much as I love approaching strangers and making their pictures, the most special pictures or the most meaningful photographs are those that I make of my friends and family. And so I said, you know what, Paulina, let's take a few of you here. And so she's an amazing creative. She's a writer, actress. She sings, writes music, and produces all kinds of stuff. But she's also an amazing dancer. So she danced on the rooftop. I thought it was beautiful. I just had her video recorded. And the pictures that you're going to see, these night pictures that you're going to see of this, the cityscapes that you're going to see, and all of the dance pictures, those were all taken with my iPhone 8 Plus. And then we just kind of hung out on the rooftop, and I thought I'd make some pictures of her.